Pisces, this is your tarot reading for the month of June. June has been a month of major energies for most signs, but not necessarily resolving everything. Yours looks a pretty good reading. We live in a time of unprecedented change, and I think that's been reflected in people's June's readings. The overall energy, the central card there, is working with others. Working with others to achieve something. In your recent past, bottom right, you've scored some victories and got some public recognition from it. Right now, you've got rather a nice energy about you, firm but fair energy. Somebody that works with others, and of course we've got this working with others. There is occasionally a danger there of you being a little manipulative, but I don't think that's what we should read into it. In the future, you start action planning, you start considering things, maybe some quite radical alternatives to what you're used to. Now, I think the change that's coming for you is because you have for so long been restricting yourself. I don't know why, but you've been restricting what you do, and I think that is coming to an end. And that results in you, the end, if you will, at the end of the month, you become a much wiser person. Somebody that knows things, not just through learning, but through experience. What would change this is you manifesting. Now, I do see the outcome as good outcome, so maybe it's a warning about manifesting, a warning about being a little too controlling. And if you remember, I said the downside of the Queen of Wands could be that she's a little bit manipulative. So is there a warning about being too controlling? I'm not sure. Let's get into these a bit deeper though. Now, the overall energy is that of the Three of Pentacles. This is a card of working with others. And maybe you each have different specialisms. So although it's sort of teamwork, maybe others can't do what you do and you can't do what others do. But you're coming together to achieve something new. A card of synergy, if you like. And I think that's very positive. I think it's what we're being called to do right now. I think it's saying you're moving in the right direction. And this is an energy that goes throughout all the other energies, and I need to be recognising that as I look at the other energies. Now, there's only one card in this spread, or one energy in this spread, that gives me any cause for concern whatsoever. So, I should be taking a very positive view of your spread for June. And in the past, you've scored some victories. These are battles, not wars, but you've scored them, and people recognise that you've scored these victories. It isn't a card necessarily of people being jealous of you as much as admiring of you. This is the past, but I think it does lead us to some of the other energies that we see here. So a lovely card to have, I think things are looking fairly good for you, to be perfectly honest. And I think that recognition does feed into this next card, the Queen of Wands. She's a lovely queen, She's a queen who works with others, so, we've got that teamwork there. But you inspire others. And people are quite happy to work with you, work for you even. You're an inspirational leader. There can be a downside to this, and that is you can be a little bit manipulative at times. And maybe there is a warning there about manipulation, maybe. But I don't want to take the shine off it, because we've got this teamwork card as the overall energy. So I think it's just saying that, you know, you're quite an inspirational leader, somebody that people want to follow, not an authoritative leader, just somebody that people like and recognise you can get results. Future, so we're probably talking of after June. We have another card that I think is incredibly positive. This is you not just planning, but action planning, you know, actively looking at what you can do for change. And that change that you're considering is very radical. Well, we live in a time of unprecedented change. And I think to be doing this is a very positive thing. You need to remain flexible, because there's so much change about that, you know, if you've got something wrong, you need to be prepared to modify your plans. But no, I think it's a great thing to be doing. I think it's, yeah, I see it as very positive. Now, the energy that leads to the outcome, and I do see the outcome as a good outcome, although this is the one energy that is less positive, let's put it that way. And that is, you've been restricting yourself, restricting what you're doing. Now, as the outcome is positive, maybe I shouldn't read anything too bad into these restrictions. You know, if you're unclear of things, then inaction might be the best thing. Although you clearly come out of this, you clearly break out of it. Now, let me give you an illustration from my own life. I live in Indonesia, and although I'm married to an Indonesian lady, legally I'm not allowed to work or make money in Indonesia. And that has very much played on my mind, because I know of people, and I've seen many people being deported for breaking those regulations. Now, there are a few ways around them, but not ones that don't require significant investment on my behalf. And given that I've already invested significantly in getting my residence here, you know, it's not an investment that I feel like making. So I've been restricting myself, but that has led to something of a poverty mentality, and that in itself is self-fulfilling. Now, I'm not saying those are the restrictions that you've got, but, you know, that's an illustration of what I mean here. What would change the outcome, and remember I see the outcome as a good outcome, is the magician energy, an energy of manifesting. Now, do you remember I said that the downside of that queen could be that you're a little bit controlling? Well, the magician and manifesting is you attempting to control your environment. And not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily. But we live in such tumultuous times, such uncertain times. How do we know that what we're manifesting is the right thing for us? Might it not be better to simply submit to God, Allah, the universe? I think that's what it's telling us here. I think that's it. And as I say, I see the outcome as a very positive outcome. King of Swords, a very, very wise king. Sort of person people come to for advice. Yes, he's wise through book learning, but he's also wise through experience. And now remember that experience of you restricting yourself leads you to this wisdom. And, when I, thinking of my position, whereby I've restricted myself because of the legal system in Indonesia, most people in Indonesia would say I'm stupid and I should simply break the law. But as I say, I know people who've been deported. And deportation is no joke. Effectively I'd lose my family and all my assets. That's what it actually means. So it would be a disaster. So better to have lived a frugal lifestyle for the last 12 years than to have been deported. And I think that's the sort of wisdom that comes with it. But also it's forced me into, this channel, for example. Not that I make any money from it, but, it's a pastime. And I think it will lead to something. So, I've got the feeling that this is a very positive card here. Now, of course, my interpretation so far is completely dependent on these restrictions, and I've used my own illustration, but let's delve into it a bit more. Why are you restricting what you're doing? First card we have is the Seven of Cups. This is a card whereby there are multiple opportunities, but not all of what they seem. The next card is a card of deception. Maybe a deception you see through, but it's a deception. And the final card is of love. Maybe a new love. How terribly interesting. Let's look at these. This first card of clarity, the Seven of Cups. A lot of opportunities, but not all of what they seem. Some indeed are poison chalices. You know that there are poison chalices out there. You know that some actions that you take might backfire on you. And that's why you've been restricting yourself. You know the world is full of these poison chalices at the moment. This is just my opinion, but if I look at so many goods and services we're offered now, the vast majority of them appear to be scams. So much of our life seems to be about scams. We were encouraged to do things online. We were encouraged to use our mobile phones, and yet it's becoming dangerous to answer anybody on the phone or to open up anything that is sent to you, Is that how it was meant to be? I don't think so. But we all restrict ourselves because of the fear of this scamming, don't we? Yeah. My analogy is right, because now we have the card of deception. This is the sort of deception that maybe you see through, and maybe those doing the deceiving know they're doing wrong and have second thoughts, so they don't necessarily get away with it, but there is deception there. And you're restricting what you do because you're aware of the huge amount of deception there is in the world. Now, for goodness sake, I'm the last person you should come to for financial advice. But I look at all I have taught at major international business schools, and I look at all sort of financial markets, and they all appear rigged to me. And right now, it feels like they're hyping everything up for a major fall in markets, So I think your sort of reticence, you're holding yourself back, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just sort of finishing off on this deception, I'm aware of a Ghanaian saying that when the big animals fight in the jungle, it's the little animals who get trampled on. And that feels to me like what's happening now, that those who've been engaged in deceptions, those who've engaged in manipulation, maybe of markets, are now fighting amongst themselves. And yes, some of them will come a cropper as a result, but it's the common people who are most affected by it. And I think that's why you've been holding back. But now comes a card of love, possibly new love, or a newfound love, and I don't quite understand it. No, we don't have any other indications of love in this reading, you see. But it would seem that maybe you've been holding yourself back because of love. Or maybe the possibility of love. Maybe you're holding yourself back from love. And these deceptions are deceptions in love. Could it be that? Have I got the wrong end of the stick about finances? I honestly don't know. You'll know better than I. So I think I've got to conclude for you. Pisces, an interesting spread of energies for you for the month of June. The overall theme is that of teamwork, working together to achieve something, and I see that as very positive. And after the end of this month, you start action planning to do something, possibly something quite radical, which I see as a very, very positive thing, providing you remain flexible. But I think you will. I think you will. In the recent past, you scored some victories and got public recognition for it. And as a result, I think people see you as a sort of soft power leader, maybe even a power behind the throne, but somebody that people will follow. There is the potential that you could be manipulative, but I'm not certain that you are. I'm not certain you are. No, I think you're the opposite, really. People look up to you because of your efficacy, as it were. Now, you have been holding yourself back in something, and there's every indication that you're holding yourself back because you're concerned about scams and deceptions. And let's face it, the world is full of scams and deceptions. So you've not been doing what you might normally have done because of this fear. But I actually don't see that as a negative thing, None of us know quite what is going on at the moment. And whilst we don't have the Hanged Man energy here, to be waiting and seeing is maybe no bad thing. The thing that throws me a little about this self-restriction is love or new love. But it could be that you're aware that there's major changes in the world, and the world will move towards something more loving, less deception, and you're holding out for that. Because certainly the outcome is a great deal of wisdom on your behalf, a wisdom that comes not just from book learning, but from experience. What would change everything is you attempting to control things a bit more. And I think there's a warning against that, just as maybe there's a warning of you not being manipulative of others. I think the universe is saying just submit, wait and see what happens, and you're probably going to be pleasantly surprised.